I've got a little bit of a scenario to lay out for you, and I'm sure you or a loved one or someone that you may know in your direct kind of circle or anything may fit this scenario, unfortunately, and hopefully it's not you yourself. But if it is, the value still applies. And what that scenario is we're January, March, mid-March, plus nearing St. Patrick's Day. So, any college age characters, I wonder how you're going to be spending your free time the next couple of nights. No idea, But what I'm trying to get at is I've been seeing a few kind of clips of guys talking like this, and just enough comments of guys saying this where it's making me think it's worth mentioning. And it's dudes where they literally write out, or they say, like, yeah, shit, man, I gotta lock in. I've been slacking. Yeah, I gotta lock back in. I've been kind of, I've just been taking it easy a little bit. Like, complete self-awareness of the situation, and just going, yeah, I gotta get back into it. And then what percentage of guys that say that, and then that next day they actually lock back in? It doesn't. I'm not necessarily one to believe it, because the way I'm looking at it, saying like, oh yeah, shit, man, I gotta lock back in. Oof. You're wasting time in a sense that you could be spending and killing it with the gains. That's like you took a gallon of milk, dropped it onto the floor on accident, and it's just pouring out. Now, you could immediately say, like, oh, shit, I'm making a huge mess here. Right? Pick it up. Stop it from kind of spreading. Or you just sit there and watch and say, oh, shit, man, I better pick that up. Dude, I bet, oh, man, I'm spilling milk all over the place. I better pick that thing up. Oh, jeez. And then just not doing it. It's kind of crazy. So that's, I'm kind of playing into something I just watched where it was like, some kind of, what's the word I'm thinking of here? I don't know, like some kind of like therapist kind of character or something, and he's talking to some person, and the girl's like, well, I don't know what they're talking about exactly, but she was like, yeah, I've got a really bad habit of this. And it's like, a habit is something you know about. If you're making it clear that you know exactly what the problem is and that you keep doing it, then where's the blame lie, right? Because it's not on any kind of excuses. The odds are it's a little bit more self-centered, So if you know anybody who says, shit, I better log back in, let's just hope that they do. That's kind of just my message for tonight. But in terms of the lift, I'm talking hamstrings. I'm talking hamstrings, adductors, and calves. I'm going to give quads the day and come back to quads on the next leg day, because I can tell they're still kind of recovering from that last lift with the leg press and the Smith machine squats, to the point where I don't really think doing anything for them now will really, do me any good. So this is not exactly a leg day, more of a posterior chain day, as it were, right? So hamstrings first. That is kind of my top priority. I'm trying my best not to freaking yawn, man. As soon as I start getting carbs in my system, I start getting so freaking sleepy. But hamstrings are number one, right? I want the back of my legs to really kind of round over. Secondly, adductors, because they do play into just how sort of thick your legs look from the front. And not only that, like, they do play a pretty serious role in terms of your stability for squatting, leg pressing, even like machine pressing, where it's like a pendulum squat or Smith squats or anything. You still have a certain degree of kind of flexibility in your form, where your legs can go in or out, side to side. And the stronger your adductors are, the easier it's going to be to stay stable and not tweak anything in those heavy pressing. And if you're a sumo deadlifts fan, I mean, these guys are sitting on the adductor machine like nobody's business, because that's where a lot of sumo strength comes from. You know, not necessarily lower back, but kind of just the pulling together of the knees. You know, really reworking the deadlift's form. But calves at the end of that, and that'll really be it. So it shouldn't take too long. You know, I'm sure hamstrings will look very, or at least reasonably simple. Laying curls, seated curls, RDLs, either with dumbbells or on the Smith machine. I would probably guess that I'm going to lean towards the Smith machine, but you never know. Plus, what if it's taken, right? I'm all for working in, but you got to work in within reason. You know, if somebody's doing squats on a rack and it's a busy gym, you can't really ask that guy like, "Hey man, can I work in with some incline bench?" Not going to happen. You know, so be a little bit mindful there, right? But if somebody's doing like, well, use your best judgment. I think that's all I'm really trying to say. But an 8 o'clock, an 8 o'clock rainy leg day, I think this will do me. This will do me just nicely. So no more chatting about it. So it's just gonna make it happen. Paired with a badass one-piece TikTok edit, this will be a nice opening set of hamstring curls. And I'm almost, I've kind of been leaning towards a similar style of working out. And what I mean by that is like a lot of my tricep days, some of my back days, hamstrings even right now. Not so much chest, because I usually start chest with a heavy press, but I never really go wrong when I do a lift that starts with something light, squeezing focused, or you make it hard simply by kind of going extra slow, right? Like the point isn't as much weight as I'm moving, it's how much, I don't want to say pain, but like intensity can I get with it, right? So rather than start with like 3-plate RDLs, which might not really do it for me, starting with light single leg hamstring curls with like a hold at the top kind of works twofold, because I'm warming up my hamstrings and I'm kind of wrecking and pre-exhausting them, but not in such a way that kind of like kills my strength. Like when I do a leg day and I got leg extensions first and I start with like kind of slow squeezing sort of torturous reps, I can still move on and squat like the same amount as if I was fresh. So it's like the light squeezing stuff almost doesn't take away from, you know, the amount of weight I can move later or how heavy it feels later, but it does kind of get me warmed up, if you can kind of imagine. Plus, you're never going to hurt yourself starting off with something light and squeezing. So it's kind of a good little opener approach. But let me see something here. Yeah, that'll do me good. All right. These are going to be 5 reps alternating. one more like that. All right, let's stay here, but the next set is going to look very different than those first two. Okay, so earlier, 65 pounds, one leg, which would be the equivalent of 130 with both. So now I'm doing 170, and this will be a double leg, nasty one. I don't mind a little bit of swinging because I can still, well, it's not like there's no tension. It's just a different style of set. And I know for sure this is going to contribute towards my hamstring destruction in a good way. There we go. Wasn't paired with the best song, though. All right. Yeah. Okay. Oh my God. A few more like that. Holy crap. Okay, let's get freaking nasty here. In a good way, of course. Discover Weekly has been killing me lately. It's really not helping me much. Okay. Oh. Oh, man. Do I do one more or do I move on to RDLs? I want to do one more. One more of these. Same style, same everything. Oh my God. Oh man. Okay, let's go do some hip hinging work. Two cheeky little plates on the Smith machine with how wrecked my hamstrings are already is all I need. So for me, I've always been a bit of a fan of a very close stance. I'm talking like feet touching, because something about it kind of lets me, it's so tricky to explain. I mean, I'll try my best, but for me, at least with the RDL, it's like I'm almost, well, obviously bend over, right? Try to feel your hamstring stretch. And as you go to contract, don't use your lower back, don't use your glutes, right? You just want to use your hamstrings. So for me, I'm almost trying to like pull my knees back and together at the same time. And it's like if I had a tail and I'm trying to tuck it, like somebody fucking scared me. And for me, at least, that's kind of as good of a tip as I can give you. I'd say start light and kind of get a feel for it. I didn't do any RDLs for freaking years. Shame on me, but now I can feel it. So if this is good, this will probably be it for hams. Oh man. Oh. I was starting to use my lower back on that last one. But yeah, that was kind of funky. I mean, honestly, the feeling of an RDL is so kind of strange. Like a curl is like this, but, well, if you know how to do an RDL, you get what I'm saying. But that is all hamstrings need. Damn. I'm gonna go camp out on the adductor. Yeah, so I decided to have a little me time with the adductor machine and the calf raises, particularly because I don't really get up for either one of those sets. Like when I camp out on the adductor, right, the ball crusher machine where you're squeezing your legs together, I really just, warm up, get myself exposed to the amount of weight I'm working with. And then, like, once I'm, throwing the stack around, 10 reps, adductors on fire, wait a minute, another 10 reps, wait a minute, another 10 reps, wait a minute, and then just go from there. Same with the calf raises. I just did them on the machine leg press, the one with the crap. Well, the one. I gotta do a U-turn somewhere. But with the stack load or whatever, just 15 slow reps with a squeeze on the top, and that's the end of it. So we'll get another leg check-in come tomorrow, or no, come next leg day, after some rather nasty machine leg press, maybe even sled loaded leg press. We'll have to see. I gotta take a minute and kind of resensitize myself to that much weight, because not only is it a physical adaptation, obviously lift something heavy, you're going to be physically stronger, you can exert more force, and then lift something heavier next time, right? It's also a mental game, it's about how strong the signal can you freaking send to your muscles to get them to contract, right? It's not all about pure muscle size. You also got to take into account your ability to actually utilize them, right? So that's where, it's not surprising that as a beginner you're going to notice some pretty damn impressive gains, simply due to the fact that you you're getting stronger both physically by progressive overload and everything else, but you're also like mentally kind of adapting, and getting more maybe not resilient is the right word I'm thinking of, but just more able to kind of send those signals and actually make that shit happen, if you kind of catch my drift. So since I haven't squatted a crazy amount of freaking weight for the last few months, my legs are let's just say I gotta simply train my nervous system to be able to handle freaking thrashing them, which shouldn't take too long. Frankly, I think after probably 2 or 3 weeks right now of eating a lot of food, pushing it in terms of the like my maximum physical sort of output of a set's intensity. So obviously I don't mind a lighter squeezing kind of torturous set of leg extensions. Obviously hamstring curls are sweet, right? I'm not doing 5-plate RDLs like we've seen some of these beasts doing. But with quads, man, and really with any muscle you can actually load some weight around with, I mean, there is a certain degree of just, oh man, you know, I want to look like I work out. I want to look like I have a big chest. You know, I want to look like I can throw a lot of weight around. Like that's kind of the, if you boil it down, the logic of like maybe the, what do you call it? Not a schism. What am I thinking? Well, that's like a pretty big shift in the mentality of lifters, be you a power lifter versus a bodybuilder, kind of, you know, more looks focused, is okay, I want to lift a lot of weight. And then on the far side of the spectrum, the bodybuilder is going to say, I want to look like I can lift a lot of weight. You know, they're not necessarily so concerned. But I think that middle ground, if you look like you lift a lot of weight, odds are it's because you can lift a lot of weight. You know, so don't fall for all this light squeezing, perfect form mumbo jumbo, right? As good as that is, that's just one side of the freaking spectrum. And on the other side, I think you're going to benefit from loading up as much weight as you can reasonably for like a heavy 8-rep failure set. But it kind of depends on the movement, you know. Like there's, I'm sure you could really quantify it and kind of graph the differences, because like with quads or squats, 8-rep set of squats, like once I'm ready for that kind of tension and like I actually fail, I got to put it down to the safeties real gentle, like that's awesome. That's a fucking badass set of squats. But lateral raises, you know, really? Try to grab the 80s for a set of like dirty lateral raises, a little trickier, you know? So that's, you kind of have to use your best discretion. But I'm ready for a post-workout meal, presumably of some eggs with rice. Now, of course, I'm going to slap some, you know, buffalo ranch sauce on top of that, give it some flavor, but kind of simple, kind of freaking simple. So still kind of floating around that 3,000 calorie range, but I don't mind if I go a little over or if I'm like a little under, because right now what I'm really aiming for is just kind of chilling in a sense, right? It's like I can kind of eat at my own discretion. You know, I'm not going too crazy. I'm not just grubbing on treats on a regular. Like I'm eating essentially just as much food as I'm hungry for. And that's putting me at that sort of 3,000-ish range. So probably within the next week, I'm going to bump it up a touch to something, right? Because right now, I mean, the amount of food I'm eating, I'm totally strong. Like I'm feeling carved up. I'm feeling completely rested when I come back. Like it's certainly enough food maintaining my body weight. But that's not what I'm here for. I'm not trying to maintain, right? I'm trying to freaking gain. You know, we're in a bulking context here. So if the weight on the scale doesn't change over the course of like, you know, every 2 weeks or so, really kind of developing a bit of an upward trend, and that's a problem for me. You know, so right now I don't need to see a perfect steady upward trend, because I'm still kind of just getting back to a regular state of being, of heavier carbed up sort of training. But probably within the month, I want to be at a point where I'm seeing a steady, probably pound-ish a week, maybe maybe pound and a half, even 2 pounds potentially, but somewhere within there of a per week average kind of gain. And I want to stick there nice and steadily. You know, I don't need a massive spike, and I don't need it to be plateaued either. I definitely don't want it to be plateaued. But there's kind of a green range, you know, like it's like I'm skiing. Right? Obviously, I don't ski. I'd probably rip both my freaking hamstrings off instantly. But I want it to be a nice slope, right, that I'm comfortable with. And if it's too steep, screwed. If it's totally flat, well, I'm not going anywhere. You know, So I want to be right there where I'm steadily getting bigger, steadily making progress, which it should correlate pretty directly with the gym sessions kind of weight and intensity. Right? Obviously, the bigger you get, the stronger you're going to be. Right? Mass moves mass. There's no getting around it. But we'll see. With this bulk, as I've kind of said before, I want to take it not slow, but I want to take it steady. You know, I want to be much more calculated with this one compared to any previous. And in doing so, I want it to be taking me to a level I haven't reached before. Like, I'm not necessarily so concerned this time with the weight on the scale. Every time I hit a new level, like by the time I hit 255 as like a regular morning weight, that's going to feel pretty cool for me. That's a 5-pound jump. And by the time I hit 260 as a morning weight, I'm going to feel pretty cool. By the time I hit 265, I'm going to feel pretty cool. But that's not necessarily the point. My goal isn't to be 265. That's simply a consequence of what the goal of this bulking phase is. Just contractile tissue, muscle growth. Now, of course, that comes with getting heavier on the scale, but the scale doesn't necessarily tell you everything, right? Because if a guy's bulking, well, honestly, I've seen a lot of freaking dudes streaming like TikTok lives where they're doing like a bulking mukbang, and as much as I would have probably thought, like if you go back 2 years ago and I'm looking at this guy with like 2 tubs of Ben & Jerry's, a Krispy Kreme box, and like just whatever else, I'd probably think, hell yeah, man, this guy's going hard. Badass. Which, in a sense, compared to the alternative of somebody who can't actually gain weight, I mean, yeah, the guy's bulking for sure. But I've come to realize over time there might be a smarter way to go about it. All the comments were like, well, Sam, the 50 grams of sugars in a donut is not directly equivalent with the 50 grams of carbs in like, however many, well, I guess 50 grams of carbs worth of like just plain rice or like oatmeal, and then I definitely used to say, or obviously I knew they were different. Like the sugars have a much bigger impact on your blood sugar, your glycemic index, right, whatever. But in my mind, I'm like, well, it's just fuel for the machine, throw that shit in, you're gonna burn it off, you chill. And to a degree, that is still true, right? Obviously, if somebody only ate 1,000 calories of Skittles every day, and they were a regular dude and they walked around and they burned a normal amount of calories, that guy would still lose weight because he's not eating enough calories versus how many he's burning off. But that's just simply taking something to an extreme, like to prove an argumentative point. But in context of this bulking phase, like if I want to continue to grow steadily, that means I need to continue to eat steadily. And if I want to continue to eat steadily, I do not want to stress out my gut. I'm getting a bit curious now in terms of even looking into some sort of probiotic kind of supplementation as this bulking phase goes on to really kind of keep my gut health in check. And I might even want to like really look into it, see if I can get that stuff sort of tested, see what my like digestion rate actually is at, because when you get down to it, that's the limiting factor for me. By the time I can't gain any more weight, it's not because I've reached some sort of arbitrary limit. It's because I can't eat enough food to facilitate actually kind of, setting that pathway of hypertrophy into motion, right? So that's what stopped all my previous bulks, the fact that I just couldn't keep eating. So I want to make sure that I'm setting myself up well to keep chowing down to gain a steady amount of weight, but enough weight that I'm still kind of satisfied with, Goodness. So that's the plan. So fast forward a few months, well, I couldn't exactly tell you how heavy I'm going to be, but I know I just settled that about not caring about what the actual weight is. No, don't worry. I think I'm definitely going to break into a PR body weight territory, but it's going to take a while. As quick as I just gained, 20 or so pounds from competition time, that's not 20 pounds of muscle. That's 20 pounds of freaking nothing. Just carbs and water, right? If my body's acting as a sponge, which in a sense you kind of can think of your muscles as doing so, right? Your all those fibers and stuff can be full of glycogen and water, or they can be depleted. and the difference is pretty staggering. You know, like I think, yeah, basically just an instant jump of having all the muscle cells and, well, really just all your cells in general, having filled up with glycogen. Now that I'm, you know, back on a normal amount of food, that's all that's changed. I don't have any new muscle from the last few weeks. Well, maybe a little, but nothing like crazy noticeable for the last few weeks of eating a bunch of food. I'm just carved back up, and now I'm in a full state. And for me, a full state means a growing state. So I'm gonna keep chowing down on food. We'll get some more full day of eatings going in here, and some grocery trips as well. So tomorrow's gonna be a chest day. I think I might go to a fancy pants gym. Really change it up. I kind of like doing just checking out new places, different vibes, different people, different energy. But either way, even if it just ends up being a damn Planet Fitness lift, I know for sure I'm gonna have a gnarly sort of chest pump. But I think that's all I got, man. So I will see you then.